Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a beautiful Thursday morning, June 16th, 2022. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at this time. We talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, but ultimately, we are here to support each of you, regardless if you are a white label partner and or a referral partner. Yesterday, it seems like we hit the nail right on the head. We talked about our renewed emphasis to take financial literacy out to the marketplace. We had about a 30-minute training yesterday, and you can see the YouTube link referenced here on the shared screen. If you missed yesterday, I do encourage you to go back and listen to that if you missed it. We're not going to duplicate that conversation, but we're going to build off of it. So our topic today, as shown, is teaching financial literacy, getting paid to help others, part 2. Where was part 1? Part 1 was yesterday, and that's the link we're showing you here. So what we did yesterday is we introduced how you can facilitate online or in person. We mainly talked about online because there's additional logistical constraints of doing in-person workshops. But regardless, doing workshops to build both the financial literacy and to create a pipeline of clients who will pay you for their capital raise. So we can serve two masters, one of which are the clients. We want to help them build financial literacy, build a lender compliant loan package, and help them get credible enough so they can get the funding that they need to start to grow to reach their potential. That's master, or if you will, customer number 1. Our second customer is you, each of you on this live webinar, or if you're listening to the recording afterwards. This is a vehicle, a process, if you will, an opportunity to be able to get paid an adult income by helping other people. So that's not too good to be true. Some people have this perception of, well, if I make a lot of money, I must be doing something wrong, or I must be not doing the right thing, I guess would be the better word. No, there's a lot of people that make a shitload of money, but there's also a whole lot more people that don't have a vehicle as process, a technique, an opportunity that they can monetize. So this is the real deal. So the concept that we talked about yesterday is teaching financial literacy to entrepreneurs. We're not having a sales presentation. I used to be very active in going out and teaching this before the pandemic. I'd go to libraries, and librarians would love it. They would provide me the room. They would provide the AV equipment. They would market it. They would often find some local business that would come in and cater breakfast. My favorite time slot, by the way, is 9 or 10 a.m. on Saturday mornings for live workshops. And we'd have the workshop, and they'd love it so much. They said, can you come back? Can you come back again? Maybe they want us back in 6 months, maybe 3 months, maybe even monthly. But we're teaching important information. The content that we use is off of the 27 Mistake curriculum, which is available to you, 27mistakes.org. You can go preview it. And again, there's no selling. So the test that I like to use if the workshop or webinar went well is if I have a host involved. A host is a church, a chamber, a library, an organization, some sponsoring event, person or organization that is putting their name behind it and helping drive people to attend. And if they are so happy afterwards that they want to go do it again, just like I mentioned with libraries, then you know you've done something right. Now, of course, you want to measure based upon the economic impact that the money you make from it, which we'll talk about that in a moment. But the bottom line is this is good stuff. I don't think anyone's going to critique the content and say, oh, that's not needed, or that's not good, or that's not accurate. And you know that our curriculum is built off of the FDIC's award-winning curriculum. This curriculum is promoted by the SBA, so we're bulletproof in that regard. So then after we teach them about financial literacy, then we want to help them, and we're going to go through a couple options to do so, because today we're really doing implementation training. And the end result is if you help 8 clients a month, we should reasonably generate that just from one workshop or one webinar a month. But we've talked about yesterday, that your best strategy is to have the webinars on a frequent, consistent, and clearly stated basis, so people don't have to figure out, oh, is there one today or not? But regardless of that, I mean, it's literally an opportunity to generate 6 figures a month. People that have not generated much income before will look at that and say, they'll be pessimistic. Well, that's too good to be true. Well, that's just because they're either financially illiterate or they just simply have never had a mechanism to earn an adult income. This is it. All right, so that's the background and kind of refresher from yesterday. If you missed yesterday's training, you'll want to view it, please. Let's go ahead and I'll make this a bit smaller. Let's go ahead and get into implementation today. Just 5 points to discuss. Tomorrow, we'll get back and we'll talk about marketing and getting the butts in the seats, quote unquote. But today, let's talk about implementation. So again, if you didn't see yesterday's training or you didn't pay attention to yesterday's training, this might not make as much sense. I would go back and listen to that and then re-listen to today's discussion. But regardless, let's jump in. Implementation steps for conducting the financial literacy webinars. The first thing, and we again discussed it or introduced this concept yesterday, you need to decide the format. Now, we're going to talk specifically about doing webinars. We're not going to train or support on workshops to the general population because that has more moving parts. But anyone can do the webinar side. So let's start with webinars. If you do get a webinar or two under your belt, and then you have the inclination to do in-person workshops, we can vet through that. Now, let's start with deciding the format. What we said yesterday, and let's reiterate today, there's 2 different ways you can approach teaching the webinar. The first is what we'll call fully live, or A, you teach the content. So there's 3 parts to the workshop, the webinar: the opening, the presentation, and the closing. So if you're doing A here, you're doing the opening, you're teaching the 27 mistake curriculum, and then you're closing it out. And we talked about closing techniques on yesterday's training. Alternatively, if you wish, you can open the session, use the on-demand recording, which will lessen your burden, play it, and then close the session. You will still want to have a live opening and closing. Otherwise, it's just on demand. And so it's okay even if you wanted to can one of these and have it on demand. But we know that having the ability to interact with the audience, have them register, live events on a regular basis will typically get you the highest conversions. So hopefully that makes sense. Does anyone have questions on the difference between you opening, teaching, and closing versus you opening, using the recording, and then a live close? Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward, but that's important because the meat of the matter, the meat of the presentation, about 30 minutes of content, is going through the 27 mistakes. We try to go through 1 mistake per minute, and so it's around 30 minutes. You certainly can teach that. We'll provide you the PowerPoint and you can teach it, but I think some of you may be most comfortable with using the recording for the content portion, at least until you get your legs underneath you, but it's up to you. So that's the first thing you need to decide, what's your format going to be. And again, we're talking about format of a webinar. We're not going to support or encourage in-person workshops for the masses. If you feel like you're ready for an in-person workshop, we can discuss that individually. Then we need to decide the frequency. As we talked about yesterday, like in everything, there's good, better, and best. So best is to have these webinars, frankly, and this is aggressive, so I know some of you want to do it, so it's not the only way to do it, but best would be to have these webinars every day, 7 days a week, same day, same time of the day, every day. That would be best. Better, so we're going down a notch. So we were at best, now we're down to better, would be to have it on a regular basis. Maybe it's not every day, but on a regular basis. Every Monday, every weekday, whatever you prefer. And then we get down to good. So we had good, better, and best. Good would be to at least have it once, because if you don't do it at all, then you're not using the technique, you're not educating people, and you're not using it to create a funnel. So to not do it at all would be bad, right? But good would be to do it at least once. Better would be to do it on a regular basis. Best would be to set up a schedule and have this webinar every day, same time of the day. That's your decision, right? It's your decision. But we talked about the benefit of frequency. So once you've decided the format, are you going to teach the content or use the recording and just open and close the session? You've decided the frequency. Then you need to make sure you have your Zoom account set up. Maybe you already have a Zoom account. I'm not a Zoom expert. I'm not here to teach you Zoom. If you have Zoom, great. Then just look at how it is set up and make sure that the branding of it is conducive for this purpose. If not, edit it or get a Zoom account. And there's alternatives to Zoom, of course, WebEx and others. It's whatever you want. It doesn't matter to us, but we're just using Zoom in a generic sense. Fourth, we need to have a registration process, because ultimately, and we'll talk about promotion tomorrow on tomorrow's Zoom, but we need to get the word out, and their call to action is to register. They don't have to pay anything, but you want them to register. You don't want to make it so burdensome that they don't want to register, but normally you'd want to get at least their name, their phone number, and their email, because you want to be able to follow up with them afterwards. You want to be able to set up reminders and so forth. So we recommend Eventbrite. We don't have any financial interest in Eventbrite. And historically, I don't think it's changed. It's been a free service. So if you're not charging people for attending the event, I do not believe that Eventbrite charges you, but you can verify that if you want. Again, we don't have any financial interest in Zoom. We don't have any financial interest in Eventbrite. We're just trying to show you the tools that are typically used, and you can sign up for Eventbrite. Then we need to finally determine our call to action. And this means that once someone has so they've learned about the webinar, they've registered for the webinar, and then they've attended the webinar, what's next? And we showed you yesterday the sample flyer and how this ties into that. But there are two primary call to actions that you could choose from. I think you need to consciously decide which you want to use and then build everything around that. Let's talk about the two most common calls to action you could choose from. The first one, which is frankly the one that we recommend, is helping everyone that attends the webinar enroll in the free 4-week funding program. How much does that cost them? Nothing up front. How much does it cost them later? Nothing. We want them to come in, fully participate. It's a free program. People like free. They don't have to give payment information. People like that. It's going to get them engaged. We're going to take them through the 4 modules. We're going to help them build their business plan, help them build their business credit, get at least $10,000 of business credit of funding while they're going through that 28-day process. Going to help them build out their financial statements, like their balance sheet. Module 4, we're going to pull it all together and build their loan package. How much does that cost them? $0. How much is it worth? $2,500. That's what the grant's covering. It is excellent, excellent, excellent. How would you do that? So if your call to action is this, then you're going to use your landing page or link that will look just like 4weekfunding.org. You'd say, whoa, wait a second, Tom, I don't have that. I can't do this. Well, then go to 4weekfunding.org. Down at the bottom, you put your information in, you click, I want to be a referral partner, and the system will generate that link. How much does that link, that landing page cost you now? $0. How much does it cost you later? $0, right? And so that establishes you as a referral partner. What does it cost you? $0. And then you get a link. And so that's where you drive people to. Now I see a hand up and Joseph's asking, Joseph's saying, hey, do they have to attend the workshop for me to enroll them in this? Absolutely not, Joseph. You can just enroll people right away. And so you could argue, and I think that Joseph's being sarcastic with me, he's joking, but what he's prompted me to tell you is, do you really care if they attend the webinar? I mean, you'd like them to, but it really doesn't matter if they attend the webinar. What you really want them to do is to do the call to action. So you can have some people that register and don't show up for the webinar. Fine, you can still give them the link and they can still enroll and participate. In other words, it's not a prerequisite. What you'll notice, though, is when the client starts the 4-week curriculum, module 1, we say, hey, if you've not seen 27 mistakes, here's a link to view it, because it's so valuable to open these entrepreneurs' eyes to the credibility factors that impact their access to capital. A lot of them don't know or haven't considered it yet. So ideally, you'll use this campaign, create a massive funnel, educate them, bring them in, make a lot of money. But even if you don't use the education as part of your funnel builder, they'll still be offered that education as they implement. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay, and then the alternative call to action is that if you're a white label partner, instead of feeding them in to what we talked about with A above, option 1, you can just bring them right into your white label access to capital program. You should know how to do that. You should be trained and supported on how to do that. But just in a synopsis, you have a contract. We provide you a template. You can edit that contract with terms and conditions, your branding, your pricing. But the bottom line is your call to action would be to get them under contract. And then at that point, you'd load them into the white label client submission form. That's all part of the training that you should know as a white label partner. If you're not a white label partner, then B is not an option to you. You would only do A. Timothy's asking, well, when is A better than B, or when is B better than A? Timothy, tell me if that's not what your question is. Well, again, I like the free approach and plugging them into the free grant subsidized model, because there's no cost. It's a real seamless transition. You're going to get nearly everyone to convert, to take that hook, that call to action. And then what we call the hybrid model is then that once they're going through this, you can reach out to them if you're a white label partner, and then ask them if they're ready for some funding now, their first tranche, and then execute step B actually during that 28-day process. That's how we've seen the highest conversions. So that would be the advantage, Timothy, of doing A first. The advantage of doing B first is they go straight to funding. They get a funding proposal. The typical client will get 4 to 7 cash funding offers. And if you're a white label partner, they're paying you the $2,500 deposit normally within days of enrollment. So this creates the quickest cash flow for you, Timothy, if you go straight for B. A is going to give you the highest conversion percentage. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let me reduce this down. So at this point, what questions do you have? We're not talking today, and I see Scott's not our chief marketing officer, but other Scott, a different Scott's asking about marketing. We're not going to talk about marketing today. We're talking about marketing and promotion tomorrow. That's tomorrow's topic. Today, we just wanted to peel the layer back one layer deeper and talk about the implementation steps. So if you've decided that you want to use financial literacy to help people and to increase your income, to build your funnel, these are some important steps. What you would do is you would email me. I'll help you facilitate. I've taught more of these than anyone else within our organization. Granted, you may have taught more on your own, but you'll email me essentially the answers to these 5 questions. So that lets me know that you have a plan. Now, if you need help vetting through any of these, of course, we can help you with that. But essentially, it starts with this. Then we can create the flyer. Then we can create the campaign to promote, which we'll talk more about tomorrow. All right. Any questions before we wrap up today's discussion? In summary, we want to improve financial literacy. That's part of what we are focused on doing. The wonderful thing is that you can use financial literacy to help people and earn an adult income. And so we're giving you some step-by-step directions and processes to do that if you would like to do so. Do you have to teach financial literacy? No, you don't have to. You might want to delegate it to someone else. You might say, I don't believe in that. I don't want to do that at all. That would be your choice. But this is a great way to help people make a difference in the community and to be able to create a pipeline. And we know if our goal is to make money as a distribution partner, we need conversions. And for conversions, we need leads. And this is a great way to take leads and move them in, convert them into clients, and monetize them. All right, well, we'll continue tomorrow on part 3, the final part, talking about promotion. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.